know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
For the World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion of the world.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Hello and welcome everyone to another edition of Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is your host, Mr. Green. Welcome to the show. And I have been going episode after episode after episode to try to get myself caught back up to the present. Yes, I'm in a little bit of a time warp because I allowed some free time to pass, as you may have heard in one of the previous episodes, over the Father's Day weekend. So I wasn't doing much of anything at that particular point, which then caused a domino effect, and here we are. However, I have been going back through the WoW shows, the ones that were not, I didn't miss them necessarily. I had to go back and watch it so I could refresh my memory as to what I did and what I didn't like, what I thought made sense, what I didn't think made sense, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, the normal stuff that I do. And as such, I have almost given myself like WoW overload. It's been a lot of it. Now, I didn't bury myself completely in that. I did have some breaks. I did get a chance to watch some other wrestling to kind of cleanse my palate. Of course, around the corner is several big women's wrestling shows. I think one of which already passed. I can't remember when the Reality of Wrestling thing took place or is to take place. So, you know, there's quite a bit of that's going on. And it is going to be I would say an interesting set of TV, an interesting set of women's wrestling that's coming up and around the corner. I wonder how well WoW will stand out in the tall timber that is growing up around it. You know, there was a point in time, and I may be jumping ahead of a little bit of stuff here, but, you know, what the hell? Why not? There was a point in time where I said, WoW Women of Wrestling had the benefit of standing on the 2 feet of we're the only women's wrestling show, or you know, however they like to phrase it, and I'm sure I talked about this before. We're the only ones with a global footprint, but you know that is steadily changing. What, by their definition, is a global footprint would be the first real question that I would ask, because theoretically, once you place your stuff on YouTube, you have a global footprint. It's not like somebody can't access it. And then you're talking about the events and the shows and stuff like that. They can't rely on, well, we have the best talent in the world, or we have the most recognizable names, or we have the single best matches, or the global footprint. All the things that they were able to rely on 20 years ago as the only option for women's wrestling on television has pretty much gone by the wayside. Now that's not going to immediately spell doom and gloom for a while. That is not the case. And I don't want to try to promote that as being the case. But I will say I do think they need to refocus on how they want to present WoW in a more digestible form that people would accept. Now, of course, the WoW faithful will take it for what it is. They'll probably take it at face value like, yeah, they are the only ones with a global footprint. But if you're talking about everybody else in the world, you may want to change that. Now, that's just for me. What do I know, right? So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. But before I go into the weeds, because I feel myself heading in that direction. I already feel myself going into being ready to talk about the whole show and who did what and why did this happen and what's with this debut and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I already feel it bubbling up within me. So rather than to go off track and get into those subjects, let's deviate just for a second. Let's hit the news, views, and updates, and then we'll come back around, and then we'll do the review for a while. So let's hit it now. News, views, and updates. Let's go. And what's happening out there in the world of women's wrestling? Well, that was kind of what the lead in there was for, because we have got a few things that are getting ready to take place. Things that you can watch fairly easily, given that you may have YouTube or Title Match Network. I know a lot of you out there have either a subscription to that. So what's coming up on that? Reality of Wrestling. They have their 1 hour all women's episode titled Heart and Soul, and it's going to be headlined by Reality of Wrestling's Promise Braxton, taking on, well, it's been referred to as Natalia, but she seems to be showing up there as Natty Neidhart. So that is the big match that you're going to have to look forward to. I have every intention of trying to catch that match. Yeah, in fact, I think as I'm recording this, I should be looking for it tomorrow, I believe. So I'm looking forward to it for two reasons. One, I have enjoyed how Reality of Wrestling has presented their women, and we've seen some former / potentially current WoW stars there. I don't know how to say whether it's current or not, because they're so far behind in their taping that at this point I don't know who's coming back and who isn't. But needless to say, we've had one half of the current WoW Tag Team Champions appear there, that being Holly Swag, but on Reality of Wrestling's programs, Holly Hood, Haley J, as she's known to the rest of the world. The disciplinarian, Robin Reed. She is more or less in a general manager mode. I wonder if she's stepping back in. I might need to reach out to her. But anyway, yeah, she's in general manager mode. And the last time that we saw her, she was allegedly having these anger issues. That was a while that nobody ever saw the result of. They was just talking about, yeah, she's just out of control back there and whatnot. We never saw any of that nonsense. But I'm looking to it for those reasons, because the talent that they have access to. But the primary reason, of course, is going to be the main event. I had seen Promise Braxton wrestle a couple of times. Has a great look as far as I'm concerned. A star look, and presented as such. That's the real key. She's presented as a star. And to help facilitate the fact that she's presented as a star, she's going against somebody who has star power already. Natty Neidhart. Now, I haven't fallen off of seeing her on the indies. I'm actually happy that she's still making spots other than WWE, but I'm also a little wary about how she may be presented when she gets there. Not that I distrust Booker T or his booking. Not as far from it. It's just that after that NWA thing, I was like, oh man, I don't want to see her be Natalia in Natty Neidhart's skin, if that makes sense. On the indies, she had a chance to redefine who she is to the world. In large part, that was what the promos were about. that Natalya does this thing, Natty Neidhart does that. And I wanted to see more of that. And whereas I have the absolute faith that the match will be good, I have the absolute faith that it'll be good. I just want to see her succeed a little more to keep that boat afloat. You know what I mean? After losing to Paige for the NWA Women's Championship, I just really, really wanted to see her change the path, if you will, for Natalya. I don't expect Natalya just to show back up on WWE's TV in this current phase and just suddenly set the world on fire. What I could have seen, and I know I've mentioned this also, I could have seen her as the NWA Women's Champion. If I was Billy Corgan, I'd have done everything in my power to get that title on her. Just so I can get some, raise the profile of the company. I can see her challenging for and winning the TNA Women's, Championship or the Knockouts title. I could have seen that. And other little, spots, maybe the other WWE ID-based promotions that have a women's division. I can see that. Her time on the main roster, I don't think is over, but I think her time on the main roster being a main event player is probably within cycle. I won't say that it's over with, but I do believe that they've probably cycled her down at this point because they're pretty stacked as far as talent is concerned. So there's not really a need to have her there. Her value, as I see it, is outside of the company. She does not need to leave the company. If the company is willing to allow her to make these other shots and, for lack of a better term, be the traveling champion, which is, now that I'm saying that out loud, I wish she had a championship that she can travel with. But for her to be the traveling champion would be great. It's an old concept, but the concept would still work if she were going to promotion A and she got the chance to wrestle the top talent there to help raise their profile, potentially scout them for a WWE tryout or NXT Evolution, what have you. Going to another WWE ID event, going to one of those high profile indies, going to Game Changer and NWA and Reality of Wrestling, just all these little stops that she's been making. I can see those, her being useful to the business overall. Not just the WWE, but to the business overall, because I'm sure the WWE would look at it like it's great if we can get somebody to get out there and get their hands on the potential talent before they get drafted elsewhere. And that's what the WWE really wants. Got to choke out that talent pipeline that was going directly into AEW. Well, now we got some things to derail that. WWE ID program. Making partnerships with some of these other promotions and or schools. And I think she could have been a major component in that. Whether or not that will take place, who knows? But getting back to the overall point here, and what day is this supposed to be? It's the 6th. The 6th of July. So depending on when you're listening to this, it's probably already up. You'll have your choice of either title match, or if you are willing to wait, Reality of Wrestling did say that they will post the entire thing on their YouTube. So if you can deal with the commercials, you can do it for free. There you have it. Good stuff happening there. Jordan Grace was a young lady who I had the chance to see very, very, very early in her career. She might have been 18 or 19 when I actually interviewed her at the time. When she came down to Georgia, her and Jonathan Gresham, who was already living here. Amazingly, I think that did they know each other already at that point? I never really even questioned it. But they've known each other that long for certain, and they are still together. So bravo to them for, this wrestling couple. But that's not the news. The news here is that Jordynne Grace, who has gone from indie girl to indie standout to TNA Knockouts Women's Champion to WWE Superstar now, is now up for her first film role. Talking about a rise. Wow. She, as reported by Variety, is going to be involved in the upcoming film titled Welcome to Paradise. The film synopsis, according to IMDb, is a woman finds herself in a strange, magical carnival with no memory of anything but her own name. Time seems to be of the essence. Can she find her way back to reality, or will she succumb to her fantasy? Sorry. Got a little tongue-tied there, but will she find her way back to reality, or will she succumb to her fantasy? Grace is listed as playing the role of Lisa, a jacked wrestling demon. I don't know where I was getting winged from. So it also stars Matthew Horn and Bill Nighy and Togo. I know I'm going to butcher this. Togo Igawa. So you got a couple of those. Now, how big of a movie would this be? I have no idea. If I was taking a guess, just based on the persons that she's in the movie with, and I definitely don't want to disparage the talents of the individuals that I've just named, but I just want to keep two things in mind. One, being reported on Variety is not necessarily a flag being waved of it being a major motion picture, if that makes sense to you. So you have to keep that in mind. The stars that I have named there, they have been in several things, but I don't know if any of them have been massive motion pictures. So given that, I am getting the impression, or like it would be like a moderate release, not a low budget one, because they are talented people, but I don't look at this like it's going to be some sort of, we spent $80 million to produce this movie. I think it would probably fall underneath a more moderate budget, perhaps $20 to $30 million, something like that. I mean, and we're talking this moderate for movie making. $20 million at making a movie at this point would be considered, almost low budget. So, but again, now if they turned around and they'll say Ryan Reynolds was starring in this, or somebody along those lines, then I would say, yeah, this is probably going to be a big deal, because look at who they got attached to it. But given that they don't have that, but it is underway, it's greenlit, quite possibly Jordynne Grace could theoretically be one of the biggest names that's in this thing. It would not shock me if the overall budget was somewhere within that range, 20 to 30 million, or less. So we will keep our eyes open for it. But the important part is, regardless of whether I see or you see the movie or not, congratulations to Jordynne Grace on the new opportunities that's being afforded to her, which happens when you get a lot of exposure on television. It happens when people recognize you as a star. Imagine that. How about that? Getting ready for WWE Evolution. By the way, there's a question up on the YouTube channel on our posts. Are you excited for it? Are you ready for it? You can leave your comments below on that, or you can leave them here, whichever one. We have Alexa Bliss, the original Alexa Bliss, not the Temu version, teaming up with Charlotte Flair to go after the Women's Tag Team Championships, which currently held but Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez. So that is something that you're going to be able to keep your eyes out for. It is a shame that we do not have young Liv Morgan there to actually defend and work with a tag team. I was beginning to enjoy them as a team. They presented an interesting dynamic. And honestly, they may be part of one of the best women's tag team matches that I've seen. Rodriguez and Morgan against Belair and Naomi before Naomi flipped heel, obviously. But that was a fun match. That thing was a fun match to watch. I mean, I can go back and look at that right now. So I'm a little disappointed in that, you don't have the original duo defending the tag team championships. However, Perez is very good. And as much as I've given congratulations to Jordan Grace, I'm going to give congratulations to her. She's another one that I never met her, but we've seen her kind of grow from Indies, reality wrestling to where she is now. So, and she's a former NXT Women's Champion. She is cooking. So, again, big congratulations. We've got nothing to pout about there. Is wonderful to see that. We have another match that I'm going to say is somewhat. Will we call this a passing? I think we're beyond the passing of the torch phase. I can't say that. I'm going to redefine this a different way. We have another match at Evolution that is going to feature a major name. That's probably the best way to put it. Tiffany Stratton, who has decided that her championship will be defended at Evolution against WWE's resident women's legend, Trish Stratus. Now, Trish has not. When was the last time? I wish I'd have thought about this. Now, when was the last time she actually had a championship? I know she was tag team champion some time ago, but even that might have been over 10 years, possibly. Now, that is not an indictment or anything against her, by the way. She has been and is in phenomenal shape. The yoga that she does keeps herself going, and she's almost always ready to roll. So I don't think that is any sort of issue as far as her time in the ring. The question is, can she win another WWE championship, another WWE Women's Championship? Stratton is very much built out of the mold of a Trish Stratus, and she's already overcome the shadow of Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. Can she do it again? Stratus is a 7-time WWE Women's Champion. We've seen John Cena come back and win something even though he had like a 3 or 4 year losing streak. Will Stratus follow suit? That will be something to see. But regardless of whether she wins or not, I'm happy for this match. I'm happy to see her show back up. I've very rarely been disappointed when she has popped back in. I think the only time that I ever remember off the top of my head Trish Stratus showing back up in WWE and I was like, it didn't really do anything for me was, oh my gosh, what was that? WrestleMania. It was the WrestleMania that came to Atlanta, and she was on the opposite team of Michelle McCool. And that was also the year that Snooki popped the audience by doing flips to an elbow in the corner, and she legit popped the stadium. Was like, wow, I didn't know she could do that. But I always thought that match should have been a one-on-one deal. You know, if they wanted to make Michelle McCool, so you take the one from the past and the one from the then present, and you put those up against each other. But that didn't happen, so, you know, whatever. Anyhow, back to the point. The point being is that very rarely have I ever been really disappointed with her appearances. I do not expect to be disappointed here. I expect the audience to lose their mind because she's one of the larger names that's going to be there. They got a bunch of people that's showing up, but this is one of the larger names that is going to be involved in Evolution. Of course, we also have quite possibly the biggest grudge that's going on there, that being Jade Cargill taking on Naomi, or vice versa. We got the Queen, Jade Cargill, looking to settle the score with the new caution, Naomi. I think she still got the money. She probably can afford the loss. I don't want to just say, hey, she should lose because she's got the belt, but she could probably afford the loss and then come back and cash in on somebody, quite possibly that night. As the lineup is right now, we have it as such. A battle royal where the winner will get a shot at the Clash in Paris on August the 31st. Women Tag Team Championship Fatal 4-Way with Rachel Rodriguez, Roxanne Perez defending against the team I already told you about, Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, and a team to be determined from Raw and a team to be determined from NXT. So we haven't filled those slots yet. A no-holds-barred match with Jade Cargill, like I said, the Queen, and then the caution version of Naomi, who's doing a good job in her heel persona, by the way. Gotta give her a thumbs up for that. The NXT Women's Championship will also be on the line. JC Jane, the champion, with Fallon Henley and Jasmine Nix versus Jordynne Grace. Jordynne Grace will get her chance at the NXT Women's Championship, and the winner of that will face Masha Slamovich at TNA Slammiversary for the NXT Women's Championship and the TNA Knockouts Championship. I am concerned for that. TNA's track record with dealing with WWE and NXT in terms of one-on-one matches and championships has not been good. So I am a little concerned there. I can certainly see Jordynne Grace winning it and then returning to TNA to face off against Slamovich for, I guess this would be their, would it be the rubber match? I do believe it might be their rubber match. I could see that happening. I would prefer that as Jane. Just to, heel babyface, all stuff like that. And I would prefer that Slamovich actually succeed. I don't know if she will, but I would prefer that she did. But my wants and dreams are not the concerns of the WWE, I'm certain. The Women's Championship will feature Tiffany Stratton. Well, I should say the WWE Women's Championship. Let me be specific. Tiffany Stratton taking on Trish Stratus in the defending role. And for the Women's World Championship, we got Io Sky defending against Rhea Ripley. So I imagine Rhea's got to be the main event. She is the hot ticket right now. She is as over as anybody else on the roster. And by that, I mean the men that are there. Stratus, a big name that's coming back. Jordynne Grace, her star is still rising. I don't know if she's hit her peak yet. So we got that. Like I said, Naomi's killing it. Rodriguez and Perez, good job on Perez filling in for Morgan at this point. Still wish Liv was there, but hey, it is what it is. I wonder if Slamovich will actually be in the building to watch the match. That might add a little extra layer to it. I like when they can make the championships feel important, however they choose to do that. I love when a promotion can make the title feel like it's worth fighting for. So we will keep our eyes open for that. Time will tell how that will go, and I definitely have every intention of seeing this show when it airs on the 13th. There are other things that we could go into, but I think I've gone long enough. I will end by saying I need to watch Masha Slamovich against Killer Kelly for the what was it, a chain match that they participated in. It is it's an interesting thing to have Slamovich be in this position that she doesn't really have a great deal of challengers to kind of buff out her roster. Like, it's great that Kelly showed back up. But like once she got past Tessa Blanchard, the field seemed kind of thin in my opinion. It just seemed like there wasn't a lot of people there for her. So I really want Slamovich to get some people in there and have a run. Just for her sake, I really hope that she gets to have a run with this thing that people can look back at and remember. Indy Hartwell is there in TNA, so maybe she'll step up and cause some grief for the champion, or so to speak. But I want to see where this goes. They've already got the graphic out. They've got Slamovich versus whomever wins. You know, it's title versus title. The Knockouts Championship versus the NXT Women's Championship is either going to be Jacy Jayne or Jordynne Grace, as we just talked about. So that is something that I'm going to be looking forward to. And I can see why they did it, because I forgot that show is in New York. It's in Long Island, New York. So they're probably looking to load that thing up as much as they can to make sure that they can sell it out. So, hey, bravo to the people that's putting the shows together. Bravo to their partnership. I just hope that TNA can actually get some kind of win here and not just be the WWE's pet that they just keep around for shits and giggles. Anyhow, that being the end of all of that, we're going to move on now and get ready to do the full review for WoW. So when we come back on the other side of these little breaking points that I like to put into the show, we will pick it up and we'll start reviewing WoW. So check that out. Stay tuned. Be right back.
Rose Soul, you're right. I've been here 2 years straight. And you know what? I haven't received that many opportunities. So come March the 14th, I will be entering the Gambits match. And I don't care whether it's 5, 15, or 20 girls. Doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, they're only going to raise one hand. And that one hand going to be Jazz. And for you other girls, I advise y'all to keep training. Because you never know when Jazz is going to come for you.
And we are back. This episode of Wild that we're going to review today has the opening slate of the air date of June 28th. This is episode 342. Season 3 for Wild, episode 42 for them. The title, Brazilian Blowout. Chronological number 146. And it began with the former, four-time Wild Tag Team Champions, Miami's Sweet Heat, coming out the ringside to cut a promo. Lindsay starts off saying that the others don't know how to play fair. Hello, pot, meet kettle. I didn't understand why they would even mention something like that. I understand that they are more or less gone, into the babyface direction. I just, and this is just a personal quirk of mine. I don't think that when you flip like that you instantaneously forget that, wait, I used to cheat. You don't necessarily advertise it either. But you can redirect the angst. Rather than have, say something like, oh, you guys, you just don't know how to play fair, because that starts to wind them backwards into wild, generic babyface mode. We have enough of those. We've got enough of people who you don't know how to do this without XYZ. Whatever cheating mode that the heels in that particular instance do, almost every babyface will start doing that in a while. Santana Garrett, Princess Aussie, whoever it is, whichever combination of people are going up against top tier that week, you name it, they all tend to do that. With the exception of, and I say it almost every time I bring it up, Jesse Jones and Big Rig Betty. Those probably the exception to that rule. Miami Sweet Heat is not dragged into that completely yet, but this feels like it might be the start, so I would be concerned. Hopefully they do not allow themselves to get dragged into that any further. What I would have suggested is, what they basically wound up doing anyway. Yes, we've been there. I mean, and of course, this is nothing that they said. I'm just filling in some blanks here. They've been there. They've been in the rooms with, the Fab Four. We know the playbooks. We've executed the playbooks, and we got no problem basically executing it to get what we want right now, and that's those tag team championships. You redirect the focus of where we're going to bend the rules at, and they can get away with it. Especially if they're not, cheating for the sake of cheating, but we're reacting when being cheated upon. That kind of saves them from being, just out and out heels. But they say that Miami Sweet Heat wrote the book on playing dirty. I don't know if we go that far, but hey, in their universe, we can go with that. Holly Swag and Penelope Pink accept the challenge for a no DQ match. And they come out and cut a return promo on Miami Sweet Heat. McLean then makes the match for next week. This is going to be a tag title hardcore match. Pink and Swag's promo was good. It helps sell this, but the one thing that I still stand by with this is that I don't know what the motivation for either Lana Star or Penelope Pink is. For that matter, I'm not really even sure about the motivation for Holly Swag. We can assume that she just didn't like him, or she was jealous of him, or she's getting even. It could be one of those, certainly. But we've not really had any of that stuff verified. It's just she was screwing around with him for the sake of screwing around with him. Now, would she have just cause to do that? Maybe. But here again, what about the other two? If we are to assume that Swag's entire motivation was just because I dislike them, let's just make it basic. I dislike Miami Sweet Heat. If that was her entire motivation, then what reason did we have Penelope Pink and Lana Star, two people that were teamed with them, not only teamed with, fought side by side with on a few occasions. Why now, without rhyme or reason, did she feel perfectly validated and just, all right, well, I try to break this team up and I don't need you around? I mean, it wouldn't have taken much beyond a promo. I'm sure both ladies would have been more than capable of explaining it if they had a story to explain. For that matter, you might have been able to, I don't know how good a promo Lana Star is on her own, but I'm pretty sure if you told her, hey, we need you to say this, 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 and this, here are the bullet points, or if you want me to, I'll write out a script, I'm sure she could deliver it. I would prefer she didn't do it off of a script. I would prefer that, hey, let's just give you some bullet points and work with them. But none of them have really explained the reasons why they would just turn on Miami Sweet Heat, and it seemed like an open door for them just to have Lana inadvertently cause problems that made her, in her mind, make that decision. I said it would have been as easy as, in my view, Miami Sweet Heat losing a couple of matches, just enough for Lana to lose faith in them. Meanwhile, Pink and Swag were racking up wins. And then, lo and behold, oh my gosh, they getting a title shot. They're being taken seriously as a tag team. So then she starts to favor them a little bit. But we didn't get that, and it's too late now, so whatever. So we have that. It starts off with that whole spiel. And, of course, McLean makes the decision right there on the spot. Even though sometimes he can't make that decision right there on the spot. What are you going to do? The next segment, Fury versus the debuting Gabriella Cruz. I wrote down Cruz's debut, so I should have known she is going to lose. Because why? I mean, seriously. I do not bemoan that every person that gets into the ring on their debut on the show should win something. I certainly do not endorse that. But out of 10 wrestlers on any given day that debuted here, none of them are losing. It's a constant. I almost have no concern or, fear of being wrong in that, whatsoever. I'm sure I will be at some point, but it wasn't during this show. Like, she's debuting today, so she has to lose. And I said that, and people thought I was joking. I was like, for people who are just listening to this, let me reset the table a little bit. This is on while we're at work. I work at a television hub, and so I'm there on the Saturdays and Sundays, do the weekends, and this is part of the station that we watch. So, being the resident wrestling guy in the room, I get asked a lot of these questions, and this is what came up when it was like, who is that? I'm like, well, that's, they got a new girl on the show, and this is her debut match, so she's probably going to lose right now. I was like, I'm not joking. She's probably going to lose. And that's what happened. I was like, now she put up a good showing while she was there, but it's silly. It's silly that I had no intentions of trying to be funny in that situation. I was telling them what I knew to be true, but they thought I was joking about it in terms of, oh, wow, it was so terrible, so they'd have to lose. No, I was like, no. For whatever reasons, that's just what WoW does. They bring somebody in who's alleged to be a star, and they'll lose their first day. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why. No one's explained it to me. I'm not even sure the people that's there know why that happens. But it does. More often than not, that is what takes place. I honestly can only think of one person that came into that show, didn't lose, and on their debut and I guess survived to fight another day. Even though they didn't stay, and that was, what was the name? Robbie Rocket. I've probably forgotten anybody else that's done it because who there has and really hadn't left or had their value diminished somehow or another. But no, it's just what they do. And I've given up trying to find some level of logic in it, because in my mind I'm like, okay, if I want this person to be a star, I think I would debut him a little differently. Now, in fairness to Cruz and Fury, I do not believe that this match made Gabriella Cruz look bad whatsoever. So let me just put that out there before I go any further. I do not think that this match made her look bad by any stretch. She went in there and she was competitive. And if I were going to have somebody be introduced into a show and not win, but I wanted to showcase them fairly well, honestly, this would be basically the match that I would have or ask for. Something competitive, make it look good. You're still going over, but she has her moments, right? So in that regard, there is no problem in this whatsoever. My only issue is that it seems to be just an ongoing thing. It seems very, very regular that if somebody's new, all right, well, they got to bite the dust somehow. And I think in some cases, it may just be as simple as adding in something else to help facilitate whether this person's going to be a star or not. Fury gets up, has a look of, wow, I can't believe she pushed me that far, picks her up and gives her a pat on the back or shakes her hand or something before she walks out. The silent acknowledgement of respect, perhaps. That's one way to go about it. The after-match interview or something like that so she can talk about the opportunity that she's gotten and she's going to go further, than this is not the end of her, whatever. Something to give the last thought in the viewer's mind that there's something there, not just lose and then go away. You know what I mean? So during the course of this match, as nice as it was, Zane plays it up, and she's got years of experience in grappling, and that was fine. I thought that both of these ladies did fine working together. It was probably better chemistry than I expected just walking into it, walking into this match blind. Zane also brings up that you don't get a second chance at a first impression. I was like, why did you bring that up? Of all the things to say, that is one that I would have gone out of my way to avoid. Because every first impression is usually on a losing effort. So I wouldn't want to highlight the idea that, well, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Well, no, you don't. And I don't want my first impression is that she just lost. I want to get you to think about something else other than the loss. She can lose. She just needs to leave a different impression on the people that are watching and are in attendance or both. Cruz, she has good execution. It's just the same that she's in a location that it won't mean much of anything. I don't believe that most of those people watching in live attendance, certain elements of the matches that take place in front of them, I don't believe they can appreciate. If I'm going to be completely honest about my feelings of the audience, and you've heard me talk about them before, there's like Pavlov. I can't even say they're like Pavlov's dogs. At least the dogs waited until the bell rang before they barked. The people in the audience there, they just clap nonstop. So sometimes it's very difficult to see. Are you even concerned about who wins and who loses here? But anyhow, back to the match. I thought Fury did a good job in a lot of the little nuances that took place in the match. And one of my favorite spots that she had was she was coming out of the corner just after taking like a double knee shot and a drop kick from Cruz, and I don't even know how to describe the slam that she did, but she used like the armpit as the base point of the lift. And when Fury comes down, the look of shock on her face was priceless. And it didn't even look, just go back and watch that. Didn't even look like she was hurt. It just looked like, what the fuck? It's like, how did that happen? That's how it came off. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So that's why I was like, that's why I cannot be mad at the match. I am not mad at the match. I just feel like the win-loss ratio for debuts should be a little different than WoW. That is what I have come across. But anyhow, we know how the match ends. Fury gives Cruz the old backhand of power, and then drops her in the Flight of Fury, and then that's it. And she tries to get her air guitar spot in on the leg, but kind of started rolling over by that time. Fury. I wish that there were some definitive path in front of you, but it doesn't feel that way. She's just, I've used the term, she's a rudderless boat on a couple of occasions, and it still, honestly, still feels like that. It's just, I fill in the spot. I don't know where she's going. She was tagging up with Chainsaw and Daisy Lane for a little while. She was being scouted by Veronica Varun for a little while, and then just back to being a singles, and neither of which have been brought up since then. She hasn't cut a promo about what she's doing or what she wants or what her goals are. I mean, it's just, she's just there. It boggles me. It boggles me. The next segment is a promo for the next match that was going to be the Mighty Mites with the surprise partner versus the Alliance. And oh boy, now this match, I enjoyed it, but it is also another case of I do not understand this. I don't understand what you're doing right now. I guess we might as well just get to it. So, next segment after the promo is the match itself. It is the Alliance, as represented by Reina Del Rey and the members of the Brat Pack, BK Rhythm and Gigi Gianni. They are facing off against the Mighty Mites and the returning Spice within that. And then they have, you've already seen it, so there's no spoiler here, the surprise partner, Holidead. So my first thing is that it's not like Spice just showed back up on TV and they didn't mention or acknowledge it. They acknowledged it. And I would think that her return for the WoW audience might be a bigger deal. Like, and the returning Spice, something. I get that these tapings are condensed, so it won't feel that way to the live audience. But if you know that you're doing it for TV and you know you're spacing it out like that, you may as well. There's other things that I know that they do just for TV that probably make no sense to the live audience anyway, so why not? Why not do that? She's been gone for like a month and a half to 2 months on her, well, at the time we called it a never-ending college graduation, but we'll just call it a 2-month college graduation, or maybe she was just partying every day of the week for the last quarter of the year. I don't know. But the point being is that she's been gone, and this is her return. And you would think that, okay, we got the team back together, let's make something of this. But not just that, but then we have the extra layer of, well, we have a surprise partner. We have Holidead. So we pause right there. Why was any of this necessary? For what reason did they need to have a surprise partner to begin with? And I forgot I did skip past the Alliance did cut a promo in that segment with the mics. I forgot to go into that. They individually cut just one after the other, setting up for this match. So I apologize to the members of the Alliance that I skipped your segment. Did not mean to do it. Okay, so back to the match. But why was Holidead being a secret necessary? It honestly felt like they took something that could have been a useful tool in their booking toolbox, for lack of a better term, and kind of wasted it. They already have a hard time doing surprises well. They already have the uphill battle of most people there aren't over enough for the surprise to matter. But a return and a surprise partner in the same match, neither of which meant anything. So what was it for? And just to jump ahead, and I certainly don't want to disparage the importance of the match or lack thereof or whatever, because I certainly don't want to do that. But just to jump ahead, the Alliance, who couldn't buy a win for months, are in a situation now where they probably should have lost, and now they win one. Why? Sometimes I just don't understand what it is that they're doing. It was like, well, they trying to punish somebody or something. And not only did they lose, the person that showed backup is the one that dropped the fall. So I don't get that. Never mind the fact that, of course, when the Alliance comes out the ringside, where does Adriana Gambino go? Obviously, she has to go to the commentary booth, because that's what managers do, I guess. We go out to the commentary booth and talk about the match rather than to help or participate in any way. But before we get to the match in of itself, let's just go ahead and say I like the participants involved. I don't like how this is laid out. I don't like that the manager has to go and sit next to Dave McClain every time that there's a match concerning anybody that she's with her team and Raina, basically. Because for some reason, she didn't come out with the Brat Pack, which doesn't make any sense to me either. But all parties involved, I enjoy their work. But I question the reasoning behind certain things. Like I said, the surprise partner. What did they need to surprise the Alliance for? Were they in some sort of feud with them? Did they decide that they were going to have this match before on TV and we just didn't see it? And they're like, we'll have a surprise for you. You just wait. Or Spice being there when she gets into the ring, she's like ready to brawl with everybody. What was that about? I mean, watch her when she gets in there. She's like got to be held back by Holidead. I was like, well, why? Did they beat her up? Or, I mean, did they slash her tires? Call her mama names? I don't know. What did they do that she is so upset and angry that she's trying to rush them at the beginning of the match? They had somewhat alluded to, I guess she's the Spice, so she's always ready to go. But it comes back to she's never said that. She's never said that. Neither one of them have ever spoken a word on TV. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, have they said a word? I honestly don't remember. I don't know if Sugar and Spice have said a single word on television. And if that's the case, we don't know what her personality is. We don't know if she's this, relentless, I want to fight person or whatever the case may be. But that, just running across like, I'll tear you apart. Let me at him. I guess somebody thought it was funny because they saw some cartoon doing that the same week. I don't know. Let me at him. That is kind of like that. All right, settle down, Scrappy Dude. We don't need that. So anyhow, also you have to take a little bit of note of the nuances there. When Holidead is announced, you see Raina holding up her necklace to ward off the evil spirits, the evilness that is Holidead. So let's hold this necklace with the crucifix on it. Stay back, foul demon. I like this team combination, so I was looking forward to this just in general. If you've listened way back, I had a pitch for the Brat Pack and the Mites in a series together because I thought they were good enough, all four of them, to pull this off. I still feel that way. I mean, I don't know if this is the singular best example for my team there, the pack, but they give so much of themselves, and I'm gonna apply that to the alliance. They give a lot of themselves in a match. They help make, in my opinion, the Mites look good, better than most. I'm not gonna say all, but better than most. And that's why if you go and look at them, they were a pretty giving team. All three members. The Brat Pack are usually like that in general, which is why I say I thought that the Mites and the Brat Pack would be a good showcase against each other because they appear to know how to, if not work their style, they can complement the style good enough that it looks quality on live and looks quality on TV. And that means a lot. But not to discount either Holidead or Del Rey. Like I said, the alliance as a whole gave a lot to this team. And Holidead got a chance to do her Holidead stuff. She's a strong young lady, and she gets to toss people around, and she gets to look the part. First thing that she does when Rhythm comes in, just scoop her up for snake eyes, and then hits her with a body splash. Very accomplished, very good at what she does, and regardless, I don't know if I would say that the team of Holidead and Sugar and Spice should continue on. They found their ways to make this thing work, including Holidead scooping up Sugar and tossing her into BK Rhythm and whatnot. And cannot be understated how much they help make the baby faces look good here. Cannot be understated. I would have gotten more out of this had this been some sort of rivalry that necessitated Holidead being there in the first place. And the return of Spice, as I said, it would have been nice if it was a bigger deal, but you can't really do much about that now. Getting back to the making them look good point, Del Rey gets into the ring. Surprisingly enough, Del Rey helped make Sugar look good. I mean, I enjoyed the little exchange there. And I know some people will say that, it might be a little silly or whatnot, but I enjoyed the exchange there. She hoists her up on her shoulder. She being Del Rey, hoist up Sugar. Sugar's trying to move her with all her might. And the look on Del Rey's face is kind of like what I saw with Fury. The little bit of time that you got a chance to read the expression helped that entire thing. It's like, it was more of an annoyance than anything. Like, what are you doing? Trying to move me. And then she gives her the little knee up, which was a nice touch, so that she can get the enziguri. She sells the enziguri like, almost being out on her feet or, taking a big bump. Sugar's looking great. getting a big run across the ring and catching it in the corner until she can't, which also, nice touch. You got the muscle. It goes back to, I like the chemistry with these teams. I do. I just wish that the creative around them was better. Since I keep coming back to that. I certainly wish that they had some stronger creative to have made this mean more. It might have meant more if they had something going into the match in the first place. But on its own, as a cold match, it was still fun to watch. And as much as I am happy that the Alliance actually got a win in here, of all the times for them to do it, I just don't agree with it right there. They had plenty of times that they should have won matches or other matches. But this one, it's a little suspect for me. Gianni, great execution on the suplex and the power slam that she does here. I hope I'm not mixing in old matches in my mind, because she does a lot of that stuff very well. But she does, as I just said, those things very well. So if we're going to look at the next person of power in the team outside of in the Alliance, in the three-way or the three team of Del Rey, Rhythm, and Gianni, of course, is going to be Del Rey as the strength. When you talk about the Brat Pack, then it turns into Gianni, and she does those things very well. I like Sugar's counter of the what do they call that thing? Whatever the slam that they do, the finish that they have. I like that they went for it. One of the big problems that we've talked about on the show for a while is that there's not many people that establish a finish. Here we've seen them at least do this finish 2 or 3 times already, so we can kind of know what the setup is. I like that they attempted it and she got out of it. She countered us. She did what she had to do to break free, even with the look of desperation. The knee here and the knee there, both guts. Go over there and gives a drop kick to Del Rey. Then she finally gets out of there. That was probably a better definition of a hot tag than most times that you get on the WoW. And then here comes Holidead for the cleanup. And they are bumping and they are selling. I said they gave a lot. Just looking at this match, they gave a lot. If you talk about making Holidead look like a unstoppable juggernaut there for a while and power moves. I know I brought up Gianni, and I might have mixed my power slam spot that she had with another match, so forgive me for that. But they helped make her look goddamn incredible. Charges in, catches with a fall away slam, then get a spine buster on Gianni. I mean, they not. I don't want to make Holidead sound like she didn't do anything. I'm making it sound like they just did everything for her. That's not the case. I'm saying she held up her spot too. She did what she was supposed to do, even though I wanted to give credit all the way around is what I was trying to do there. That's all. And I liked Holidead slamming Spice down on Rhythm for the finish. Again, looked like a big old powerhouse in there, just running roughshod. I like that their little photo op spot got foiled by the babyfaces, and we leave in with having Del Rey alone with all the babyfaces. Sugar and Spice can't move her, but Holidead can. They did some things that I thought, hey, at least justified the moments. Del Rey was able to get Holidead up and out of the ring. Pretty much gives somewhat of a standing pounce to Sugar, which sends her to the mat. BK picks up on it good on her and pushes Sugar out to the floor. So she at least has some kind of excuse for not being able to get in there and stop it. And then 1, 2, 3, following their finishing maneuver, they get the pin. Again, not mad that the Alliance won. I love the members of the Alliance, and I'm happy that they did it. I wish they won more often. I just don't think that this was the match, given the circumstances around it, that they should have won it. But, you know, if they want to have cold matches that have returns and surprise partners and not really do much beyond that, whatever. What are you going to do? So that was a fun match. Didn't like the setup for it, but fun match all the same. Next segment, Xena Phoenix versus Goldie Collins of Animal Instinct. Well, first there was a promo for it, and then we got the match. Now, me and Goldie Collins. You've listened to me talk on here. You know that I've probably not been overly favorable to Miss Collins, and you know I'm going to do something right now that I did not perceive myself as being able to do. I am going to give Goldie Collins some high praise. I thought she did outstanding in this, considering this the match. And I'll say that from top to bottom. And part of that is a few things. One, and almost most importantly, nothing in her B-roll or visual delivery made me think of animals. I did not look at her and be like, dog trainer. Other than possibly, because I ain't in the building and I don't know what they play on the little screens that they have on the side. Other than that, you probably had no real indication that this is what she's supposed to be, right? You can look at Goldie Collins and see arrogant, narcissistic, aristocrat, whatever the case may be. However you choose to define it, you can see probably a few other things before dog trainer even comes close to crossing your mind. And her coming out there being full of herself and waving at the audience and all that. So okay, it's pompous, but I can accept that that is what she's supposed to be. I had long not seen what other people saw in her. I've gotten the emails like, Goldie Collins is actually pretty good. She cussed me. I was like, I don't see it. I don't know what you're talking about. And comments, not just the emails, so some comments are like, no, she's been okay, or direct messages, I should say. And I just didn't see it. I'm not willing to put over like it's the next best thing since an egg white omelet. And, I'm not going to go quite that far. But what I will say is that I may have needed to adjust how I viewed her in this regard. It might not be fully Goldie Collins so much as Goldie Collins in the combination of Animal Instinct. I felt more of a Disney villain cartoon vibe whenever she's around Katarina Jinx. And who knows, Jinx might not be bad on her own either. I don't know. But when they're together and they have to be Animal Instinct, and we got to find some way to work in some animal puns, and and we have to talk, the combination of that is not what I want, and it ain't what I like, and doing the cat scratch thing, and then hearing them on commentary talk about, she's a champion dog trainer, look at the whip and blah, all of that, just the combination of it is just, ugh. I don't like it. But here to give fairness to this young lady, she cuts an arrogant heel promo. And I wrote down, regardless of what I may think of her as a talent, at least she puts forth the effort. And it's not the promo that I would have liked to end with, or the line that she used in there. But the promo in and of itself is like, okay, I got it. That's another thing. She at least had a chance to cut a promo to explain the situation, the thing that I've been going on and on about and begging for. She did. Now, I don't know why she was chosen to be able to do it. I'm just glad that she got the chance to do it. She got the chance to go out there and in so many words explain her efforts as a single, why she is not with her partner right now, and that the team is not in jeopardy. Boom. Done. Got those things across. All I can ask for. We want to explore other options, but I love that explore other options, and of course I'm not doing verbatim, but I love that when she talks about doing explore other options, she as the heel basically says, I saw who I was supposed to be facing tonight, like, okay, I don't need your help, take the night off. Overlooking this person. Great. Team's just fine. Not in jeopardy. Now, I don't know why they excuse me. I don't know why they wouldn't have had her be out there under normal circumstances, but like I said, she explained it. There was some hint of, well, you know, there's no problems here. I don't know why they would just jump into there's no problems. There's, you know, it's a small note, but it's something I just felt like, I don't think you needed to hint at that if that's not a direction you're going in. But thumbs up for the effort, the information that got passed, and the execution. Thumbs up for all three of those. I would get into why I didn't necessarily like the last line, because it did go back to trying to work in some animal pun somehow. And I don't know I don't know if that is a good line for her. I'm Goldie Collins and I got that dog in me. I don't think that that's what you want to use. Some people are going to, think about the old Atomic Dog song, which is, very likely where that line came from. But I would try to find a more relatable line for Goldie Collins to use. Even if it has to be a dog pun, I would rather it didn't, but even if they have to do it, I think I would look for a more relatable line than that. It's not something that really sticks, and I'm sure there's going to be people out there like, what does that mean? So this is all tape, but if I have any sort of suggestion that I can say for their next tapings going forward, assuming that she's there, try some other lines. Try some other lines there other than that. I'm Goldie Collins and I got that dog in me is not where you want to go. I can promise you that is not where you want to go. So anyhow, her opponent here, Xena Phoenix, gets her, I was going to say pyro, but it's not really pyro so much as it's smoke. She gets her nice entrance, comes down with the cape and all that good stuff, and sets up into the ring. This is no animosity here. This is just a cold match, but it was a fine match all the same. And I liked what I got out of it. Can't argue with the match. Now, and this is probably the least issue that I had in the show so far, because there was nothing, there was no debut, there was no surprise, there was no partner, there was no, add-ons of any sort that would make this bad. And this is mostly a Xena Phoenix showcase. And I cannot say that Collins did anything bad here. This is probably why I've gotten an additional respect out of her. She helped. Maybe She might not have had a choice depending on how much of a shooter Phoenix actually is in life. But for the purposes of this, we're going to go with the assumption that she was working with it just as much as she needed to. And she bumped around for a good. I thought she sold very well here. And also that Phoenix did a good job presenting a different style in WoW. You don't really get in many people that have presented somewhat a grapple-based, almost amateur wrestling type style within their ring. You don't get much of that. There have been a couple people that have used, I think Keita's used a little bit of jiu-jitsu and whatnot, if I'm not mistaken. But it was very pronounced here. It was almost like a Xena Phoenix training session for a little while there. Collins looked like she had legit terror when she was rolled up at the beginning and the armbar was about to clap down and she was reaching desperately for the ropes. It was like, okay, I like that. I like the sell there. The takedowns that Phoenix was doing there, the look of frustration that Collins had, the leg trip that Phoenix did. I mean, top to bottom, just what was going on there, I enjoyed this match as well. And more so because it wasn't bogged down with any stupid creative. It wasn't bogged down with cartoon characters or dumb decisions by managers or tag team partners. It was a legit nice little showcase for Xena Phoenix. Collins was able to get a couple of moves in, show that she wasn't just a pushover, but ultimately it was there seemingly to make Phoenix look good. And she did. What did I have here on my notes here? Oh, yeah, I already said this is a Xena. See, look at it. My opinion hasn't changed. On the paper it says a Xena Phoenix showcase, and it is a Xena Phoenix showcase. But Collins hoists Phoenix up on the shoulder. This was the finish. She gets her up on her shoulders, and Phoenix is able to counter that into an armbar for the tap out. Now, that does bypass the portions of the match where Goldie Collins was in control, and I'm not trying to shortchange that, especially after giving the praise that I did. She did very well through the course of this. I honestly would say this much. If you gave me the option of swapping out Paola Mayfield for Goldie Collins in the main event scene, I say take it. I'm serious. If I could end Animal Instinct tomorrow and get Goldie Collins into the main event scene and get Paola Mayfield out of it, I say do it. I don't know what the hell they see in Mayfield, and I'm going way off track there, but she is not as smooth as she should be in that position. Collins actually came off to me as at least putting in some effort and smoother than I've seen Mayfield thus far, especially when we got towards the finish. Like I said, Collins stops what appears to have been a snap suplex, and then she hits one of her own before she hoists Phoenix up and then walks hard camera side to deliver a message, and that was the downfall. Phoenix is able to roll it through, catch an armbar, tap out, ding, 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 there we go. She wins. It was a good match, and it was reasonable. And, sorry, moving papers around. And, as I said at the beginning of it, it helped change my perception of what, at the very least, Goldie Collins could be. Phoenix, if I'm summarizing that particular match, Phoenix, more of what she did there, less mic work until she's ready for it. Until she has developed the personality that she's going to get. She's kind of bleeding into what I wanted or what I suggested, and that she could just be the shooter and somewhat beyond good and evil, so to speak. Like, just whoever's in my way is whoever's in my way. Collins, the further she can get away from being the cartoon Goldie Collins, the better she will be. The further she can move away from having to do scratch post spots and talk like a live action cartoon character and have to address being, the champion dog trainer every chance to get, the more she can get away from that and just expand on who Goldie Collins is as a boisterous, loudmouth, over the top, narcissistic, whatever, if you could expand on that element and less of she won this 5-time Westminster dog show, blah, 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 blah. Those are the things I think that would be well for them. And it's a shame as I bring up Paola Mayfield. Of course, she's in the main event, in the 4-way because that was the only way to determine a number one contender. But I don't want to skip my next segment here. Following the Phoenix Collins match, the next segment was Top Tier. They had to come out for a promo. And what did they do? They came out with Candy Crush and Gloria Glitter on crutches. They tried to bait the crowd, is what I wrote down here. And I found that there are people, if you are not watching the show, and it sounds ridiculous to say, but if you're not watching the show, then this segment and it's open was fine. Because if you were, your question would be, well, why are they on crutches? But the only reason I've worded the other way around is because some of you may have heard of Maestro. I use aliases for the coworkers that I'm with. And Miss Newhire, she decided to take a peek at the show. And because she hadn't watched it in maybe 2 months now, she thought it was like, oh, man, they got hurt. And so I'll start thinking about it. So I was like, that right there, maybe the reaction they want to get off of a new viewer. Maybe. But then that doesn't explain much. That doesn't explain, hey, they're top tier and they talk about their history. Like, they have to expect somebody to have seen them before. Why else would they watch? So Miss Newhire was one aspect of it. Maestro was the other. As I have explained, he enjoys watching it, but he is not, what's a nice way to say it, educated to the ways of pro wrestling. He enjoys seeing the show, but he is not fully aware of wrestling tropes, if that makes sense. So he's like he's green to all of it. And quite honestly, he probably falls into the category that WoW would want as a fan. Somebody who is just going to accept whatever it is they put on TV at face value and not just not question the direction or why this was or wasn't explained, but accept it fully without any hesitation. And in some cases, you can change the story the next day and he'll be like, oh, okay, fine. And I don't mean that negatively about my coworker, but yeah, he's a complete wrestling novice to this. So when he saw the screen, despite the fact that he watches it weekly, because, more or less, because I'm there when he does it, he also is like, oh, they got hurt. So he wasn't going to have necessarily the same kind of scrutiny that I would. Because my first instinct was, why are they doing this? So make of that what you will. Out of the three opinions, it was somebody who didn't watch, somebody who watches religiously but didn't question it. And then there's somebody that watches it, but I question all. So Take your pick. No, I did not look at this and say, oh, man, they got hurt. So it was clearly we're going to come out here and make fun of some people thing, and that's what I got. They came out there, and by the time they got to the bottom, and so they get into the ring, and then they do their promo segment, and this promo was largely just to put Top Tier over. There's really nothing else to have been gained out of this. McLean talks through it, of course. They essentially threatened the entire roster, but by the entire roster for them, that probably just means K.A.R.T.E.R and Foxy Fierce or Roxy Fierce, or like anybody within that orbit, like I said, that they are not threatening the entire roster. They've got their little bubble and they're going to stick to it. But this honestly just feels like it has no end in sight. None. I don't know what they intend on doing with this. By the time they lose the titles, who would care? It's enough that I don't view those titles as anything anyway. They just feel like they're just some reward for somebody. Like, oh man, I'm glad that you stayed. So we're going to make some belts for you. They haven't accomplished anything with that. If they really wanted to have those championships kind of mean anything, I mean, they would have built somebody that a legitimate team that can come after or potentially challenge. Top Tier, and this is my own little side commentary on it. Same way we just did with Collins earlier. And I also want to say this is not an indictment of the individual persons for somebody's feelings get hurt. But it's not an indictment of the individual persons that are in that group. But I'm sorry, man. Even the people that's in it got to recognize that creative for Top Tier is bad. Now, if you want to look at it from the standpoint of, well, we got to win all the time, then I guess it would be great for you. But part of your job is to help the next person look good. Top Tier hasn't done that at all. And it's not even close. There is no one currently on that show that has been positioned as such that you might have even thought that they had a chance to get even with Top Tier. When they had the chance to have let Top Tier get embarrassed and lose in the one match that they lost, I guess, as a team, even though it was a tag team match, they got that win back, 2 weeks later? They couldn't even allow Top Tier all to singularly lose. Coach Campanelli loses. Wow, that didn't see that happening, right? Candy Crush loses. Oh, man, maybe they're getting some sort of story out. Gloria Glitter wins. And then that stops. K.A.R.T.E.R has been chasing a win for, months? Having had two other teammates allegedly go down at the hands of Top Tier. And then she lost ultimately, and she just wandered off into the singles ranks. They haven't helped anyone. Top Tier, for whatever talent that the group has not helped anyone. Now, if they turn around and do it the next time I see them on TV, great. If they help put somebody over and start building them up to something, fantastic. But up until this point, they haven't done anything. They have not helped anybody look any better. It's just been Top Tier, win and retain. And not even bother really to cheat to do it. They largely win clean. Okay, yeah, you got Candy Crush biting somebody's ear. I've explained the difference between being cheap with a P and cheat with a T. They didn't cheat. And it just forced a group of other babyfaces to go wandering off doing the same thing that every other babyface does. Whine, cry, and complain about, man, they cheated. They wouldn't be able to beat me if they did. I'm like, that is like the sentiment of a 5-year-old. This would probably have been an easier thing to digest if they actually had, well, won a division, but we know that's not going to happen. But if they actually had a team that were on their heels nipping at them, and that you could believe if they just had the right opportunity, they would be able to beat them. I'm not saying that they have to win. They just have to make people believe that it can happen. They don't make anyone believe that they can beat them. And I know that somebody's logic is going to be like, well, we're supposed to be the greatest team. Okay, that may be. You can always say that. But at least cheat to get the win sometimes. The babyfaces just keep coming up short. And by all accounts, pretty much failed to do anything about Top Tier, regardless of what promises they made on TV. And there's no one that like, we want the belts. You know, there's no group. It just feels like the entire reason that they exist is just to get themselves over. When it is a little bit of a, you know, regardless of what people may say, it's a bit of a team sport there. If Top Tier gained any sort of shine in that place, they can give some of that to the next person. But it's been a lot of this, and it just feels like an endless road for some championships that do not mean a thing. I have no access to the ratings that WoW has had and have not had such in, nearly 2 years by now. But I am willing to bet that there's not a person in that management that can show me that Top Tier is a definitive needle mover. Or them being champion means so much to the show that we had to make sure that they had it. I know that because it's impossible, because they had to produce all this stuff before they knew anything about the show ratings to begin with. They can't change paths. And I'm sure somebody mapped out how long they were going to have the belts on the, I would at least hope so, when they figured it out on a calendar somewhere. But it didn't help along the way. In the TV that they produced, it did not help. I should say it did not help anybody else. No one got anything from working Top Tier. The baby faces that have been in the ring and across from them, no one has gained anything from working Top Tier. I mean, you could at least say that the Brat Pack doesn't have a stellar record, but you can at least say they at least make Sugar and Spice look good. The hell they tried. They jobbed to them before. What has Top Tier done? Other than have some belts handed to them. That didn't help make it feel any more important than anything else, but, you know, whatever. I'm going too long on that whole thing. The next segment and the main event. Genesis versus Princess Aussie versus Paola Mayfield with Abilene Maverick versus Tormenta. Abilene, of course, goes off and sits next to David for a little while because why not? McClain opens this trying to justify why the Fatal 4-Way was even necessary. And honestly, I wanted to really tune that out because I was like, there's nothing that he can say that could justify this beyond saying that, well, one of them held a gun to my head and said, put me in the Fatal 4-Way. That in their own universe, it doesn't really make a bunch of sense. I get that these are their top players, which does kind of lean itself into saying that their roster feels thin at the top. It's thin somewhere when they have to shuffle some of these people back and forth. I talked about Aussie and Tormenta the previous podcast, that they just essentially chase one championship after the other. And the failure of one means going back to the previous one. Genesis has been going on and on and on about the same thing. I deserve a shot, and I've been cheated, and she's got to work in the term exile some way, somehow. But what is she there for? How many more chances did she need? Same thing with Mayfield. How many more chances do they need? It's the same people. Thin. It's a thin roster. At least there, in the main event scene. But back to the point, why was this necessary? Match aside, forgetting how good or bad it is, what you thought of it, what you didn't, why was this match necessary? At what point was there a debate about who was the number one contender and why not? They've already done that. Why are we subject to this nonstop parade of number one contenders matches that they tend to want to do? It just seems like we're just having it for the sake of having it. That's ultimately what it came down to for me. It just felt like, well, why not have a four-way match? And then that'll determine the new number one contender. So anyhow, before this, Zane says McLean reviewed the footage of Genesis cheating, which is why Princess Aussie is in the match. Like, okay, I guess that's their justification for her. But why Genesis then? Like, I don't remember them explain. They explained why Aussie's there for their purposes. But if that were the case, if it was McLean reviews footage, sees that Genesis cheated, and assuming that was a match that was going to give someone into a number one contenders match, then why is Genesis there? Wouldn't they just swap it out? Is he saying that, well, I'm powerless to change my own rules? But again, like I said, I don't expect most people to be questioning those things. I do, because I want my wrestling to have some level of continuity behind it. But I don't expect most people to question that. They just, all right, she's in the match. Wow has Abilene Maverick come. Wow, McLean has her Abilene Maverick come sit next to him at a commentary booth. Why is this a thing? What reason is it that every manager has to sit at the booth? For what? What purpose does this serve? Now, granted, at least she got up at some point during the match and showed some kind of concern. At least she did that. But why is this such a thing? I don't understand. Beyond the idea that somebody sits there and says, all right, so when you guys come out the ringside, make sure you come sit next to me. I don't know what other purpose could it possibly be. Maybe once in a show, somebody comes to do a guest spot, or once every so often. This is like a regular thing. Every episode, I expect somebody to have to go out there and sit in the commentary booth and talk to David about something. And I guess maybe they consider it their way of giving them mic time. But it doesn't work the same way when it has to be him that they converse with. I'm sorry, it doesn't. They would be better served if that were the logic behind them going to the commentary booth. If that happens to be the thing. Like, we're just going to do that because this way you'll be able to talk, people hear you, and you'll get your points across, et cetera, et cetera. If that were the logic behind that, they would be better served just to give them interview time in the back. And I don't say that to knock David or somehow cut him off from his, fun of talking next to young ladies. I don't know. But it would be better served for them to have them do that in the back, where they can actually talk about what they need to talk about or what they might want to talk about as a personality to get themselves over, or heaven forbid, whatever angle that they may happen to be in. Considering their taping schedule, I'm going to say that they're more likely to have to get themselves over as a personality, as a character. And they can use that time to do that. If they happen to know the angle that they're taping, then great. They can do maybe 2 or 3 variations of that, and then the editors can take their pick. But it would be a better thing for them as talent rather than to continue to do that. Now, I know that they can't help that. They don't have any choice in that. That is not their decision to make. But openly, I'm saying that I think that would just be a better thing, because I'm sure David McClain doesn't realize how overpowering he can be. There are points in that where he can draw a lot of the energy / attention onto himself, whether he is intending to do it or not. And they're not going to get over holding a conversation with him. And I'm sure it would come across like I'm just berating him, or that you just don't like that. No, I'm not. I'm honestly not saying it because of that. I'm saying that those things I truly believe. He presents himself as a larger personality than some of the women that he addresses, talks to, holds conversation with. And when he does that, he kind of sucks the energy away from whatever the situation is. Case in point, Miami Sweet Heat cutting probably the promo that they needed to cut. Could not stop talking through it. And then once it was done, had to get all right, guys, we're going to have a match and blah, blah. That shit sucks the life out of it. And at some point, he's got to come to recognize that, or somebody's got to talk to him and have a come to Jesus moment. They probably need to do that with the person that's writing the show too. But we'll stick to one thing at a time. He doesn't need to do that all the time. And honestly, there's very little purpose behind it. Okay, you can justify it by having somebody that's associated with one of the wrestlers pop up at, the commentating booth when their wrestler happens to be in the ring. But that's, it's like the Gambino situation. It's unnecessary to do it over and over and over, to the point now where it's like, why are you even managing? You never go out there. As stated earlier, at least Abilene Maverick got up and showed some kind of concern when I think it was after the dive that Mayfield did later on. But they got to have some time to do that on their own. They need time to get on the microphone and in front of a camera, either interviewed by the person that you paid to interview or to have that mic time on their own. They need one or the other or both, not the commentating booth thing. That needs to settle down a little bit. Before the match proceeds, they go to commercial after all participants have been introduced. I'm fine with that. The next segment was the segment within this main event was the promo for next week's tag team hardcore match. And the final segment is the second half. Well, maybe not the second half, probably the 2/3 of the other end of this main event. Maverick is annoying on the microphone. That whole, and David McClain encouraging it is just, I wouldn't be surprised if people actively changed the channel at that point. It wouldn't shock me at all if people were like, man, I am not listening to this. Or at the very least muted it. But yeah, I got that the whole, pronunciation, how she presents Paola Mayfield, I understand that that's what she wants to do, and it's not like it's accidental. But hearing it over and over and over again in the commentating booth is different than catching it at ringside, you know what I mean? Or maybe in the odd promo. And even then is wearing thin, but, we'll move on from that. So it start this off being annoyed by Mayfield and not Mayfield, sorry, Maverick, sitting in the commentating booth talking about Paola Mayfield. We got the 4 participants in the ring squaring off against each other, and of course the babyfaces on one side, the heels on the other. Heels decide, or it looks like Genesis said, hey, we need to jump them. And they both try, they both fail, they both get drop kicked out of the ring, and then it leaves, wow, our tag team partners are going to have to face each other. We didn't think this was happening. Like, but they don't necessarily play shocked. They're just like, hey, we have to wrestle. So they have their little moment. They shake hands, and then they tie up, and then they do their thing. It is akin to what we got with the twins, Miami Sweet Heat fighting each other. Or I shouldn't even say fighting, wrestling each other. It is basically just an exchange of holds and a couple of efforts of takedowns, arm drags, potential for a drop kick, but both of them missed. As this is going on, the heels are outside resting, giving the ladies their spot, and then they both jump in and attack the baby faces and toss them out. But Genesis got Aussie out. Tormenta had to endure the punishment of both heels for a time. Now, I think it would be a little lengthy to sit here and go through the entirety of the match, but I will point out a couple of highlights. Mayfield, I don't know if I'm going to assume that this was not intentional because it certainly didn't look good. At one point in the match, we got Mayfield takes Tormenta to the corners. Even her attack on Tormenta while she was down looked like she was trying to go for a knee strike, but then kind of tripped over the body. But the camera angle is a little rough there, so I can't fully see that. But the next thing that happened, we definitely can see when Mayfield hoists Tormenta up to the top rope. Tormenta's able to fight out of that. She turns Mayfield around and looks like she was trying to get the float overhead scissors and catch Mayfield. But Paola didn't seem to go with that. So what we got was Tormenta almost compressing Paola's body as she landed on her shoulders and then rolled off. And then Paola has to just do a barrel roll from the standing position for no apparent reason. I will go back and say I don't have a problem with Paola Mayfield, but I don't think she's as good as they make her out to be. She seems to have one of these little moments like that in the ring per match. Now, I liked the idea of her. Because I did see her wrestle somewhere outside of WoW, and I like that she had some sort of internet presence that they could have potentially taken advantage of. But let's be honest, none of those things have happened. They haven't taken advantage. They mentioned it during the show, but they haven't taken advantage of it. They don't seem to know how. And she's not as good as she needs to be for their product. It's not that she is awful, but she needs to be better for where she's at. WoW already gets enough flack. WoW already has enough problems with people not believing in their product, even when they sample it. All it takes is something like that to change their mind into believing that, man, they don't know what they're doing. And I have repeatedly said this thing. The problem with that is that it paints a broad picture across everybody. It just, the idea of that is painted across the roster, not just applied to one person. They say WoW is bad, not that person was bad. You see what I'm saying? So maybe she shouldn't be in the main event. Maybe they can work her up or something along those lines, but I think she does need a little bit more seasoning to be there, to be one of their main event players. Let's put it that way. So there's parts of this match where you got what you would normally get out of a fatal four-way. They have to find ways to minimize the participants in the ring. So somebody's got to catch a drop kick, roll out to the floor, sit out there for a while until their turn is next to come back in. And round robin, we go with that. Like once Mayfield and Tormenta had their thing, Tormenta got put out, then Aussie came in. And, we just, as stated, it just kind of goes around. The match, other than we'll call it a little faux pas that Paola Mayfield had. Beyond that, I thought the match was fine. Most matches on this episode were. The one thing that I wish they had changed was the little dive spot that we had in the course of this particular match. I mean, it was basically take Penelope Pink and Holly Swag and substitute them with Genesis and Paola Mayfield, and you've had this near exact same spot. Tormenta goes out to the floor with Genesis, and we're skipping ahead to that part. If there's any other issue, I did not like the camera work. Like having that aerial shot took away from the impact of the move. Tormenta's segment of this, at least. I know they wanted a wide enough shot to get it all, but it robbed it of the element of the impact. The closer, more dynamic shot would have been a better thing. Yes, we did get to see the moonsault off of the apron, but I really, really wish they had used the floor cam. One of those floor cams and just got a good, clean shot of it from, by top to bottom. Not an extreme close-up or nothing, but just enough to make that look the way that it should. But aside from the camera shot, you've seen this. In the original version, it was Tormenta doing a running senton off of the apron. But you've seen this in the tag match. You substitute half of the match, and you've got this. Tormenta does a moonsault off of the apron. Then she picks Genesis up for her partner to make a dive. Same way as the second thing in that last segment was a dive. And then they all get picked up or all get themselves up. And now it's got to be Paola. She gets up to the top rope so that she can do a dive in much the same way and off the same corner as Holly Swag did in the previous version. This is also the point where Abilene Maverick says, I got to get up and go check on Paola. So she does. It's nice to see it. And I appreciate the efforts of all competitors there. I just wish they had kind of maybe been able to take into account that the last time this was seen, and I know it's hard on them because how they tape, but the last time there was a scene was not all that long ago. So it can't possibly have the same kind of impact as we got previously. So, getting towards the end, Genesis does amazing roundhouse kick and nailing Tormenta, knocking her down and knocking her out, or at least looks like it. Tries it on Aussie, who breaks up the fall initially. Aussie's able to catch her with a cutter, drops her. So we got Genesis out of it. Tormenta's coming around, and she's just climbing up to the top rope, apparently. Not Maverick. I always want to say Maverick when I think about it. Mayfield. She catches Aussie with a DDT, but as she comes down and she sits up, she's just right on time for Tormenta to come crashing down on her with double knees. And that's it. Tormenta wins the new #1 contendership, so she will get the match against the Class Master that I'm sure that Wild Management says all the fans have been long awaiting ever since she was thrown out of the Battle Royal and cheated of the championship. Zayn is screaming about the main event. He was, I guess, very excited. I wrote down, how long is it going to be before Genesis and Paola Mayfield cry about another title shot? I also wrote down, Zayn says, oh my goodness, a lot. I mean, between the two of them is, oh my, and oh my goodness. I'm almost at a point that's like, just go ahead and cuss. just enough with the, oh my. Anyhow, is that supposed to be their catchphrase? Like how Joey Styles had his thing or Jim Ross had his thing? Is oh my supposed to be the catchphrase here? Anyhow, that was the show. I also questions like, how does any of this tie into Mayfield attacking Garrett, and will there be any sort of follow-up? Because on TV, it came across as Mayfield had some sort of beef with Garrett, stopped her from getting a title. Well, I was going to say title shot, but getting the title stopped her from that, or at least the effort to attempt to get that. But here, Garrett's nowhere to be found. I would think that she would want to make sure that Mayfield doesn't win. It would seem logical to me. If she had ran out there and fought her off to the back or knocked her out or she saw she was going to win, prevented her from doing, something. But that didn't happen. Will that come back up? Or will it just be dropped? Those things are unfortunately very real possibilities with Wild that it might just be dropped altogether. I certainly, I don't know what I want. I was going to say I certainly hope not, but I don't know. I don't know what I want out of that anymore. I mean, do I really care that they're going back to some feud? Because the feud didn't even make any sense to begin with. The idea that Santana Garrett was somehow a thorn in the side of Paola Mayfield, even though Mayfield was the one that won and got the title shot. Like, I lost because of you. I beat you and you made me lose the main event. I don't know what the logic is there. So I don't know what this feud is even about. So, yeah, I'm not really sure if that's something I'd care to see. Maybe it can work. Who knows? WoW will do what WoW was going to do. You know, as I went through this this episode to try to get myself back up to speed, I pretty much figured that by the time I got to this, that the preview that I read would have aired, which it has. However, I'm just going to, because I like doing this segment, I'm just going to read it just because I do enjoy seeing how they phrase things. Because, and I'm looking at the first line right now because I don't know, that it's like they will put in this unnecessary information just for the sake of doing it. But let's take a read here, and then we can move on to the summary. The next episode is going to be Season 3, Episode 43, Hardcore Rivalry. While Dojo's defenders Terror Strike recoups, K.A.R.T.E.R squares off against Animal Instinct's Katarina Jinx, who squashes rumors that she and her loyal companion Goldie Collins are parting ways. They're exploring singles action to further hone their talents. Eco Freaks Scout Parker and Sprout Greens have it out with the unsettling Chainsaw and Daisy Lane, who continues to parade her dolly, Little Daisy, around the ring. Tonight's main event, Wild World Tag Team Championship Hardcore match, is set to flesh out the animosity between Holly Swag and Penelope Pink and their faction mates, Miami's Sweet Heat, Lovely Lori, and luscious Lindsay Carlson. Will this hardcore stipulation be enough to contain Lana Starr's Fab Four and put an end to the bitter rivalry once and for all? Okay. Well, I just want to say again, sometimes feel like they just put in unnecessary information. I don't know if they think the fans are reading this or not. But why are they constantly fixated on Terror Strike? Anytime they mention anything about K.A.R.T.E.R, it's like, and while Terror Strike's at home. Why do they have to bring that up? I mean, look, she's in a singles match right now. Come on. It'd be like somebody getting a divorce and you constantly bringing up their ex-husband. I know you broke up with John, but how are you doing today? How's that John since last time you seen him? And the next, and by the way, how are you? You know, I don't need you to constantly go backwards and bring up that. Just move on. Just K.A.R.T.E.R Strike. Now I'm mixing the names. K.A.R.T.E.R. Just her. Just move on. We don't have to talk about Terror Strike recouping. And what rumors? Katarina Jinx, who squashes the rumors that are local. What rumors? When did we see rumors begin on the show? I wanted to squash that. Why? When did they do these things? And I have to explain it. They're exploring singles action to further hone their skills, talents, whatever. Again, is that a necessary thing? I mean, I know they want to make this sound good, but is that really necessary? Eco Freaks didn't even use their real tag team name. I thought they were the Environmentalists. And why are Scout Parker and Sprout Greens going against Chainsaw and Daisy Lane to begin with? Aren't they all heels? Ugh. And going off of what this thing says, you think that all four of the main event is still together as a faction. Holly Swag, Penelope Pink, and their faction mates, Miami Sweet Heat. You would think they're all still palling around together. In the midst of this hardcore feud. If they finish this off and be like, all right, guys, we're sorry. I don't know what I would do. It's like I might lose my mind. But I definitely get on here and say that whoever wrote that nonsense is the worst writer that mankind has ever seen. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I would hate to have predicted it. If that takes place, I'll be like, I would have never, ever guessed that. And that's the show, folks. That's going to do it. I think I've raised my heart rate enough by carrying on about WoW and his programming. So we're going to do the quick close here. If you are so inclined and you're catching us on YouTube, do the YouTube things, like, share, comment, subscribe. All that good stuff helps us with the algorithm. If you're listening to this on podcast, then of course you can find us on greater podcast platforms everywhere, including YouTube podcasts, but greater podcast platforms everywhere like Spotify and iTunes and things like that. And if you, for whatever reason, can't find those locations, can't imagine why you wouldn't, but you can always go to the WPN website, the WPN's WPNWrestling.com, which also has a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week stream. Matches dating back to 2013 with faces that you know and love, people that you saw that have moved on to TNA, MLW, some gone to WoW, some gone to WWE. Always there, always running, and there are some things that are non-wrestling related, but it's part of the show, or part of the broadcast, I should say. And of course, every podcast that is produced is dropped there as well. Scroll down, you will see it. There's a bunch of them in there, archived and ready to go. So you might be able to scroll through and find me talking about episode 1 of this thing. Yeah, it's a big difference between what I had then and what I'm doing now. And to close, folks, thank you very much for your time and either listen to this wherever you listen to it, YouTube or whatever podcast that you may be catching it on. I appreciate it wherever you found it. And I hope that you continue to check me out and follow me along as we go show after show. As long as I can tolerate it, we'll go show after show. And so on that note, I will finish by saying that this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go-round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.